Hi guys, and welcome to Terminal Velocity. Today we're going to be doing the 10th episode of the Zelda Versus series. This might be the best episode of the entire series, so be sure to pay attention to Ocarina of Time versus Majora's Mask. For the first category of this matchup, we have creativity. While Majora's Mask definitely has plenty of creativity, Ocarina of Time was the first 3D Zelda game and paved the way for all of the 3D Zelda games that have come after and will come after. So it definitely is a little more creative, even if compared side to side, Majora's Mask is a little bit more creative. I'm going to give the point to Ocarina of Time because it invented the 3D style for Zelda games. The next category we have is combat. And while Ocarina of Time did invent 3D combat for the Zelda series, and it also invented Z targeting, which would be used in many games later. Comparatively, Majora's Mask and its different mask forms just has so much more different types of combat that even though Ocarina of Time did inspire a lot of other games from other series and its own series with Z targeting, Majora's Mask is just by far more impressive. So I'm going to give the point to Majora's Mask in this category. The next category we have is exploration. And while both of these games are great games, they're not known for exploration with such as games like Breath of the Wild, Wind Waker, and Zelda 1 are. They're more linear games in general, but they both have massive fields in the center where you can explore nooks and crannies and find stuff. However, Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time is significantly bigger than Termina Field for Majora's Mask, and there are more things to explore in Ocarina of Time, and it has a larger world, so I'm giving the point to Ocarina of Time in this category. The next category we have is items, and while Ocarina of Time technically has more items, with Majora's Mask having slightly less normal items, Majora's Mask has a ridiculous amount of masks that all have their own abilities and are items that you can use and do different things. So Majora's Mask definitely has the win in this category. The next category we have is enemies, and for the most part, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask have basically the same overworld enemies, as that's what this category is talking about. But since Ocarina of Time is the game that came first and came up with those enemies in 3D, then the point for this category will go to Ocarina of Time, just because it's the predecessor to Majora's Mask. The next category we have is dungeons. And while there are great dungeons in Majora's Mask, there are only four real dungeons, while Ocarina of Time has 8 that are all amazing dungeons, and Majora's Mask only has 3 that are pretty good, and 1 that is amazing, which would be Stone Tower Temple. And while Stone Tower Temple isn't my favorite dungeon from the game, it's definitely the most well-made one. However, Ocarina of Time has definitely better dungeons than Majora's Mask, so it gets the point in this category. The next category we have is characters. And while Ocarina of Time has amazing and absolutely amazing character development, is by far surpassed by Majora's Mask, which has characters that over the course of the 3 days you get to know much better, and it has insanely good character development, and just getting to know the characters and their backstories and their personalities and how they cope with the world ending in 3 days. The next category we have is story, and by strictly a main story point of view, which is what this category is, Ocarina of Time does have a better story in general. While it is more of a typical Zelda story, it is, generally speaking, a better story than Majora's Mask, which still has an amazing story, but Ocarina of Time has one of the best stories in any Zelda game, so it gets the point in this category. The next category that we have is emotion, and similarly to characters, this is a game that Majora's Mask exceeds at. And again, while Ocarina of Time does have great emotion with the sages and Zelda and Ganondorf, Majora's Mask has amazing emotion because everyone is knows that they're about to die from the moon falling, and it's a 3-day time period where you can talk and get to know them better. So Majora's Mask gets the point in this category. The next category we have is progression. And while you may think that Majora's Mask has better progression because it's shorter and it's like a sequel to Ocarina of Time, and they would have like expanded and done better progression, Ocarina of Time actually has far superior progression, with the child section to the adult section, where it's massive increase in difficulty, while Majora's Mask, it starts out a lot harder than Ocarina of Time starts out, and ends slightly easier. The next category we have is side content, and while most of the categories in this Zeldaverses are very, very close, this one isn't really, because while Ocarina of Time does have some side content, it does not compare at all to Majora's Mask side content with the masks, the fairies, all of the optional side quests, and there's just tons of side content. So Majora's Mask definitely gets the win in this category. The next category we have is music, and this is a very, very close category. While Ocarina of Time picks a more lighthearted and more normal Zelda overworldy themes, Majora's Mask goes darker and more like disparaging music. They're both good in their own way. However, Ocarina of Time is a longer game, and because of that, it has a longer soundtrack, and almost every song is good in the game. So I'm gonna have to give the point here to Ocarina of Time, just because it has a larger variety of songs. The next category we have is bosses, and once again, similarly to the music category, although not as close at all, the bosses in these two games, while both being very good for Zelda bosses in both games, Ocarina of Times are slightly better, having more to offer, such as like Volvagia, Phantom Ganon, like Goma, King Dodongo. There are a lot of really good ones, while Majora's Mask doesn't have as many that stand out. So I'm giving the point to Ocarina of Time. The next category we have is art style. And while you would think that since the original version of these two games have essentially the same art style, that Ocarina of Time, being the first one, would get the point in this category, but considering that it is a fairly average-looking N64 art style, and Majora's Mask takes on that and adds a lot more dark things and like darker like art styles. Definitely not nearly as lighthearted as Ocarina of Time's art style, so I'm actually giving the point of art style to Majora's Mask in this game. The next category we have is World, and while you would think exploration is an important part in this, but there's a whole category for that. Ocarina of Time definitely has a larger map, but Majora's Mask has a lot more compact map. Basically everywhere you turn in Majora's Mask, there's something new to find, or some side quest, or a mask, or just like a secret like hidden cave or Skulltula house. So I'm giving the point to Majora's Mask in this category. The next category we have is difficulty. And while Ocarina of Time is not the easiest Zelda game by any means, it is generally more of an easy game than Majora's Mask is, as Majora's Mask requires a lot of puzzle solving, especially at the end point of the game. So I'm giving the point to Majora's Mask in this category as well. The next category we have is replay value. And while Majora's Mask is generally a shorter and easier game to play while you after you've beat it and you know what to do, Ocarina of Time is definitely more fun to go back to again and again and relive just the story of Ocarina of Time. So I will give this point to Ocarina of Time, giving it a win for the entire game and progressing it to the semifinals. This has been a really good matchup. It was very, very close. I almost thought Majora's Mask would win at the end, but Ocarina of Time is more fun to replay in general. So it wins and will progress to play Link's Awakening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and consider watching my other Zelda Versus videos, or just some of my other videos in general. Anyways, thanks for watching Terminal Velocity, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.